Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is July 14th, 2024. It is 5:13 p.m. Today we will be going over the introduction to the text Race First, written by Dr. Tony Martin. So that'll be our topic for this evening. As always, we have and please forgive me, we do some cleaning, so if there's some scratching noise in the background, I can't do anything about that. So we'll start with our rituals. So first thing we do is our pledge. If everyone would, please come off mute and say the pledge along with me. I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered Black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism. And I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
As African people, in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter
nor fail until all Black people
are free and united through one God, one aim,
one destiny.
One destiny.
Race First. Okay. I'll go through our opening hymns, just reading them. First one is from Greenland's Icy Mountains. From Greenland's icy mountain, from India's coral strand, where Africa's sunny fountains roll down their golden sand. From many ancient rivers, from many palmy plains, they call us to deliver their land from error's chain. Shall we whose souls are lighted with wisdom from on high, shall we to men be knighted, the lamp of life deny? Shall we to men be knighted, the lamp of life deny? Salvation, O salvation, the joyful sound proclaim, till earth's remotest nation has learned Messiah's name. Waft, waft, ye winds, his story, and you, ye waters, roll, till like a sea of glory it spreads from pole to pole, till o'er our ransomed nation the Lamb for sinners slain, Redeemer, King, Creator, in bliss returns to reign. Amen. Then I'll do the first part of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. And to close, shine on eternal light. Shine on eternal light to greet our souls this day, dispel the gloominess of night and drive our doubts away. Our longing eye prepare when war and strife shall cease, to view the morn soon to appear, the new era of peace. Thy glorious church, O God, no kingdom can remove, made without hands, this blessed abode, the harbinger of love. Of all the gifts that flow from thy great throne above, we ask thee on our hearts bestow the gift of perfect love. My soul the light receives and dares the truth to prove, not in blind ignorance believes, but knows that God is love. Come, love, and give new birth to man's destructive mind. Spread where confusion reigns on earth, goodwill to all mankind. Shine on, eternal light, thy penetrating ray shall turn the hour of darkest night into eternal day. Amen. Okay, that takes care of our openings. Brother Art, you want to help me with a roll call, and then I'll go back to ground rules.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Tonight's attendees are Diane, Second Lady Vice President, Dr. Shams, Attorney Imhotep, First Vice President Malik, Treasurer Najee, Second Vice President Omasius, Sean Jones, Zafia Bey, and Eric, President John, and myself. Race first, fam.
Thank you. Brother Eric is third vice president. Sister Diane is first lady vice president. Brother Malik is second vice president. Brother Macius is first vice president. Attorney Motep is counsel general and legal defense committee coordinator. Brother Art is our recording secretary, and I serve as president for Division 421. All right, so we just looks like Chaplain Mitchell just joined. Makes a total of 12. Thank you, Brother Art. For ground rules, please keep your line muted, take notes, and for when you do have a chance to speak, try to keep your comments in the 3-minute range to allow everyone to speak. Sisters, don't give out your personal information. Try not to, overuse the N-word or vulgar language. We do record these calls for future education purposes and to share with the youth. And last is have fun. And that is all for introduction. That's all I got. Brother Art, do you have the minutes from previous meeting from the 23rd? I think that was last mass meeting.
Yeah, I think of.
You can share those with the family.
Okay. Okay, the minutes for 6/23. It was a call to vote. And we opened with the rituals. And the preamble was read. The contestants of the vote was First Vice President Omasius, was challenged by Second Vice President Malik. Omasius is the winner. Malik remains the second vice president. Eric, the third vice president. Diane challenged Lady President Raw Ebony. Raw Ebony is still Lady President. Diane is the first vice president. Cicely is the second vice president, and Dr. Cooter, the third lady vice president. John remains president. The elections were concluded. Added to the officers was Brother Najee was added to the outreach office. Cicely and Raw Ebony will be working the correspondence secretary office. And Brother Najee also is assistant treasurer. That was the conclusion of the elections. Roy Ebony gave updates on the Black Cross nurses and their events coming up. Malik mentions the executive call wants more members to act during events. Ross Marvin confirms elections checklist. John reviews new second Lady Vice President Cicely and her officers. Diane says teamwork makes the best dream work. Brittany, new arts and culture. Oh, I forgot about her. New arts and culture I guess I have to call it the coordinator was added. It was also mentioned that her and Najee were engaged. Roy Ebony goes off about event attendance. And then members share. And then we close with the anthem. Race first.
Race first. Thank you, Brother Art. Any questions on meeting minutes from last meeting? And I think you said Sister Diane challenged Lady President. No, Lady President ran unopposed. First Lady Vice President was between Sister Diane and Sister Cecily. Sister Diane won. And you were correct on everything else from what I remember. But the results come out to be what I'm showing on this chart. So
okay.
If there aren't any questions for the executive body, that'd be Brother Art, Sister Diane, Brother Malik, Attorney Motep, Brother Eric, Brother Macius. I vote that, I motion that we accept the meeting minutes from our previous meeting. Is anyone second?
Second.
Brother Macius second. Anyone opposed? Any unreadiness? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Thank you, officers. So then thank you, Brother Art, for those minutes. Okay, one thing you mentioned that got my attention for today was preamble. So I did forget that step in our introduction. Don't want to restore. So preamble. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro peoples of the world, and the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man, but with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed. All right, so I think now officially that takes care of all introductory information, and we can go into our topic for the night. Any questions or comments before we go into our topic for the evening? Sister Diane, will you do you have your questions available for introduction? For the introduction of race first? Sister Diane, you there?
Brother John?
Yes.
I didn't know we were gonna do a race first today,
Yeah.
but I am I was like, that's Tuesday. I thought it was an error when you put it up first. In any event, I think I have the you just want to do an intro of it or what?
Well, based on our schedule that we made in the beginning of the year, for today's topic, July 14th topic is race first, the introduction chapter. So
Okay, I should have that shortly. I'm actually driving to
yeah, I
my
was
house. I should be there in like 5 minutes.
not a problem.
I can pull it out then, but I think I sent you those first questions, Brother John, like for chapter one,
I'm sure I have.
the ones from the book. But I should get there in like give me a couple of minutes.
Okay. Yeah, this
I
is
was taking pictures at the house.
can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So all right. Well, from to take a step back, from a overall organization standpoint, um, from a calendar standpoint, yearly calendar, we've always every year tried to make sure we touch on this text race first. So this year, Sister Diane is actually walking us through the entire text on every Tuesday. This is something that we haven't done regularly, but even outside of being able to go through the entire text, we've tried to make sure that we put some time in the calendar every year where we at least discuss this text race first. And today is the day that we do that. So it's a little bit of an overlap from what we do on Tuesdays, but that's just because, you know, our Tuesday study group, as far as the depth of race first, hasn't been a normal process. So it's a bit of a new program. So I was gonna ask Sister Diane, just possibly when we finish reading this, if we wanted to go back and ask questions for context instead of just, I don't want to just read it. People be on mute, probably be watching TV or something, and then we finish and say we read it, but there's no retention of the information. How many pages is this thing? Wow, hold up. This thing long. Yeah, we got 19 pages. That's quite a bit. I need to get some water and then we'll start. We'll need some readers to be ready to pick up. I'm gonna try to get through a good 4 or 5 pages. Let me get some water. All right. That's a lot of reading. A lot of 33. So just just in case I went too fast. We're reading Race First, book by Tony Martin. Some of the writings about the book The classic study of the Garvey movement, The Truth Has Finally Been Told. And that was from Honorable Thomas W. Harvey, who was the fourth President General of the UNIA. Next quote is, as close to a definitive study of Marcus Garvey as we have seen. And that's from Dr. John Henry Clark. But title of the book, Race First, subtitled The Ideological and Organizational Struggles of Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, written by Honorable Dr. Tony Martin, New Marcus Garvey Library, book number 8. So part of our UNIA curriculum, national curriculum. All divisions should have a library consisting of the New Marcus Garvey Library. So we should all be studying the same text, Race First being one of these pivotal texts. All right. So that's what we're reading. Now into the text itself. Chapter 1 is titled Introduction, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, 1887 to 1940. It's basically a biography of Mr. Garvey's life. So yeah, everything from 1887 to 1940, the major points that took place pretty much every year throughout Mr. Garvey's life is discussed in chapter 1. Okay, what do I care about death in the cause of the redemption of Africa? I could die anywhere in the cause of liberty. A real man dies but once, a coward dies 1,000 times before his real death. So we want you to realize that life is not worth its salt except you can live it for some purpose. And the noblest purpose, which to live, is the emancipation of a race and the emancipation of posterity. Students of the course of African philosophy should know some of this verbiage from lesson, it was one of the later lessons, Purpose of Life. I think it's lesson maybe 19 and 20. But living for your posterity, living for things beyond yourself. History records that slaves, by virtue of their experiences and the knowledge gained in captivity in strange lands, have eventually become masters of themselves and in time enslaved others. Let us therefore use adversity as others have done. Take advantage of every opportunity where there is none. Make it for yourself, and let history record that as we toiled laboriously and courageously, we worked to live gloriously. Marcus Garvey. So no excuses. We know our condition, but history says that other races have been in this condition as well, and they've found ways to overcome. And we will do the same. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, August 17th, 1887. His childhood was deeply rooted in the peasant environment, which largely surrounded him. He once described an uncle for whom he sometimes worked as a sharecropper. His own parents also engaged in small-scale peasant farming. Garvey's was not a typical peasant experience, however. His father, a descendant of the Maroons, Jamaica's African ex-slaves who successfully defied the slave regime, was also a skilled tradesman, a stonesman. Garvey's background further distinguished him from the typical peasant in that his father possessed a library among whose volumes Garvey developed an early taste for reading. His childhood was characterized by an inadequate elementary education, supplemented by private tutors and Sunday school. His leadership ability seemed to have manifested itself from the very beginning, for his physical prowess gave him a position of eminence among his peers. At the age of 14, by which time he had already become apprenticed to a local printer, Garvey left school. 2 years later, he moved to Kingston, Jamaica's capital city, where he obtained work. By the time he was 18, he had achieved what he had later described as, quote, an excellent position as manager of a large printing establishment, end quote. This was an outstanding achievement making Garvey the youngest foreman printer in Kingston, and at a time when many foremen were still being imported from Great Britain and Canada. Participation in a strike during which he contested to lead the workers despite assurance of favor from management cost him his job. He then obtained new employment with the government printery. In Kingston, Garvey quickly immersed himself in the intellectual and political life of the city. By 1909, his political involvement had brought him into the National Club organized by lawyer and legislative council member Sandy Cox. Garvey was elected one of the assistant secretaries of this club, which sought to combat privilege and the evils of British colonialism on the island. In 1910, Garvey embarked on his first of his many wanderings in foreign lands. He went to Costa Rica, where he worked for a while as a timekeeper on a United Fruit Company banana plantation and as a laborer on the pier at Port Limon, edited a paper at La Nacion, harassed the British consul concerning his non-protection of the many British West Indian laborers working there, was arrested for urging workers to fight for the better conditions, and was eventually expelled from the country or left to escape authorities. He continued for the next year or so to wander through Latin America, going to such places as Panama and Ecuador, where West Indian workers had migrated in large numbers in search for work. He observed the universal degradation of the Black race, worked intermittently to finance his travels, started another small paper in Cologne, Panama, and agitated among Black workers. A Black worker in Cologne at the time remembers meeting Garvey around 1912 as he addressed the predominantly Black Cologne Federal Labor Union. There is a possibility that Garvey may have stopped briefly, perhaps in transit, at a seaport somewhere in the United States during this period. From Central America, Garvey returned briefly to Jamaica, and by the autumn of 1912, undeterred by a lack of money, he was in England, where his only surviving sister, Indiana, was working as a governess. In England, he indulged his love of public speaking at Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner, was a regular visitor at the House of Commons, and worked for the African Times and Orient Review, the foremost Pan-African journal of the day. He found the time to visit Scotland, Ireland, France, Italy, Spain, Austria, Hungary, and Germany. Garvey later said that he attended some lectures in law at Birkbeck College of the University of London. By July 1913, Garvey was, not surprisingly, most destitute, and he applied for government assistance, possibly because of his job at the African Times and Orient Review. However, his article for the magazine was published in the October issue. He was able to eke out an existence for almost another year. By May 1914, he was probably again without employment. The Anti-Slavery and Aborigines Protection Society intervened on his behalf, dispatching him to the colonial office with an offer of a contribution from the society if the colonial office would put up some money to repatriate him to Jamaica. Early in June, the society informed the colonial office that Garvey was, quote, endeavoring to raise a fund to meet passage money, end quote, and offered to match equally any amount the colonial office proffered. Garvey managed to do without the largest of these two agencies. However, he succeeded in raising his fare home and left England on June 17th, 1914. Garvey's first sojourn in England was of great importance to his career. The workings of British democracy had a lasting impression on him, and like later generations of visitors from the colonized world to the metropolis, he noted the contrast to the autocracy which the very same colonizers maintained in their tropical dependencies. He was often to call in years to come for an extension of quote unquote British justice to the colonies. England gave him an opportunity to enhance his already wide knowledge of the worldwide sufferings of Black people. In the pages of the African Times and Orient Review, there appeared regularly articles by and about such leading Black figures as Booker T. Washington, Edward Wilmot Blyden, John Edward Bruce, W.E.B. Du Bois, and William Ferris, to name a few. Some of these would before long be his associates in the United States. Garvey also came in contact with Black seamen and students whose sufferings he observed, and with the many people of color who visited the offices of the journal. Wait, let me read that again. Garvey also came into contact with Black seamen and students whose sufferings he observed, and with the many people of color who visited the offices of the journal. And the fact that the journal combined a Pan-African outlook with wide coverage of Middle and Far Eastern nationalist struggles, and indeed all anti-colonial struggles, contributed further to Garvey's growth and influenced his future outlook. Garvey arrived back in Jamaica on July 15th, 1914, his head bristling with ideas on making a living and founding a racial movement. To secure the former, he tried selling greetings and condolences cards and monumental tombstones. To secure the latter, he formed 5 days later after his arrival the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Imperial League. The title bore testimony to the enlarged vision brought about by his travels and the fear which he never relinquished, that weak races were doomed to slavery and possibly extinction. In this regard, he wrote, "For the last 10 years, I have given my time to the study of the condition of the Negro, here, there, and everywhere, and I have come to realize that he is still the subject of degradation and pity the world over, in the sense that he has no status socially, nationally, or commercially, with a modicum of exception in the United States of America." Garvey became president and the traveling commissioner of the new organization, among whose stated objectives were the fostering of, quote, a universal confraternity among the race, end quote, the establishment of a central nation for Black people, the setting up of educational institutions, and a pledge to, quote, work for better conditions among Negroes everywhere, end quote. Amy Ashwood, whom he had met at the weekly meeting of the East. I just want to touch on this. I'll mention later we are doing a commemoration of the 110th year of the founding of the UNIA. So July 20th, next weekend, we will have a Zoom event commemorating the founding, which is being spoken of here. The founding of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League by Marcus Garvey in Jamaica, 1914. Amy Ashwood, whom he had met at the weekly meeting of the East Queen Street Baptist Literary and Debating Society, became its secretary. The association was formed, she said, on their second meeting. A few days later, an inaugural meeting took place at the Collegiate Hall, Kingston, presided over by the mayor of Kingston. Recruiting was slow, even though Garvey worked tirelessly and succeeded in establishing himself in the minds of many as an agitator and a nuisance. Many respectable, quote unquote, respectable Negroes who had not yet learned to love their Blackness opposed his movement. As Garvey wrote later, quote, I had to decide whether to please my friends and become one of the Black whites of Jamaica and be reasonably prosperous, or come out openly and defend and help and improve the integrity of the Black millions and suffer, end quote. After about a year, the organization could boast only 100 members. Up to this time, its activities were largely confined to Kingston. In November 1915, however, its public meeting outside Kingston was held in Garvey's hometown, St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. The Jamaica Times reported, quote, right merrily did the people of the town turn out to listen to their fellow townsmen, end quote. Garvey had planned to undertake a fundraising lecture tour in the United States beginning this very month, having received an assurance of support from Booker T. Washington, but the latter's death caused him to postpone his trip until 1916. So that's something else that we'll look at for the commemoration of the founding, is the communication or correspondence between Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey. Garvey arrived in New York on March 23rd, 1916 for a lecture tour, which he had thought would last 5 months and would be confined to Black audiences, mostly in the South. He arranged for his mail to be delivered to an address in Jamaica during his absence and let it be known wherever he went in America that he was raising funds for an industrial institute to be established in Jamaica. Garvey's advent into the United States did not find him as much a stranger to conditions there as some are led to believe. For one thing, his wide reading on racial matters had obviously included the racist condition in North America. More than this, though, Garvey's visit to the United States came in the midst of a large-scale migration of the West Indians to that country. The toing and froing of persons and ideas generated by this migration meant that adapting to the United States was probably not too much of a problem for new arrivals. By March 1916, Garvey's sense of mission, his conviction that he had been called upon to emancipate his race, had developed to an uncanny degree.
President John,
Yes.
I can take over whenever you're ready.
Thank you, brother. I'll finish, and then you pick up on page 8.
Okay.
Shortly before leaving, well, if you could, you take over from this sentence. Thank you, Brother Najee.
Okay. So shortly before leaving Jamaica, he had written in a letter to Robert Russa Moulton, Booker T. Washington's successor at Tuskegee. I am now talking with you as a man with the mission from the high God. Even though he still thought that Jamaica would be the main field of his excursions, he had nevertheless already mapped out the course he was to follow over the next few years. He wrote in the same letter, I have many large schemes on my mind for the advancement of my people that I cannot expose at the present to the public, as in such a case, my hope of immediate success would be defeated, as my enemies are so many and they are ever anxious to misrepresent me. I have firstly to found a press of our own and to get some working start so as to demonstrate my true intentions. Once in the United States, Garvey found lodging with a Jamaican family in Harlem, came down with ammonia, obtained work as a printer, and saved enough to start out his fundraising tour through the States. He gave his address at this time as 53 West 140th Street in Harlem. By June, he was lecturing in Boston, and by November, demonstrating again the amazing mobility which had characterized his Central American and European visits. He had already visited, among other places, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and Chicago. He had also met a goodly number of prominent national and local Afro-American leaders. Among them were John Edward Bruce, whom he called a true Negro, a man from whom he had the strongest regard, a Dr. R.R. Wright, Jr., Dr. Parks, Vice President of the Baptist Union, Dr. Trilly of the Methodist Episcopal Church of Philadelphia, Reverend J.C. Anderson, whom he described only as being of Quinn Chapel, Miss Ida Wells Barnett of anti-lynching fame, magazine editor Fenton Johnson, and William H. Ferris. Bruce had been an agent for and a regular contributor to the Africa Times and Orient Review. Ferris had once written an article for the same magazine in which he praised Garvey's October 1913 article, which had appeared a few months before his. Ferris was later to edit Garvey's weekly Negro World from 1920 to 1923 and to hold a variety of high offices within the UNIA. Bruce, after an initial period of skepticism, became a regular contributor to and member of the editorial boards of both the Negro World and Garvey's Daily Negro Times. Until his death in 1924, he remained the staunchest of Garvey's supporters among the Afro-American intelligentsia. I think that's how you say it. Garvey's whirlwind tour took him through 38 states and lasted about a year. He returned at the end of it to New York City, where he established a temporary base. Harlem, only recently converted into the Black section of New York, was already the virtual capital of the Black world. Its population, composed in the vast majority of Southern and West Indian-born immigrants, was possessed of a rare vitality, containing as it did a high proportion of radicals of all types and a large number of outstanding Black creative artists. Race uplift groups of all kinds abounded, and the main thoroughfare, Lenox Avenue, was a favorite haunt of soapbox orators. Harlem, however, was but a microcosm of the Black world of the World War I period. The subjugation of Africa by European imperialism was still a fresh memory. In response to this, an infinite number of nationalist and Pan-Africanist organizations had come into being in Africa, Europe, North America, the West Indies, Central and South America. Everywhere that Black people lived, and all looking toward the restoration of African independence. Apart from the African question, Black communities everywhere had local problems of their own. The Black man was almost everywhere in a state of subjugation. Garvey and his involvement in the printers' strike and his participation in Jamaica's National Club and his agitation among Black workers in Central America and his travels in Europe and in his formation of the UNIA, conservation had dropped out of the title along the way, had long embodied the spirit of Black protest which characterized the age. It was inevitable, therefore, that he should be tempted by Harlem, the most highly politicized Black community in the world. Garvey moved onto the center of the Harlem stage with all the ease and self-confidence of the man with the mission. He took to the streets, joining the soapbox and stepladder orators, and formed political alliances with some of Harlem's prominent radicals. Someone who knew Garvey at this time recalled that he could throw his voice around three corners without batting an eyelash. On June 12, 1917, Harlem intellectual Hubert Harrison invited Garvey to address a mass meeting attended by 2,000 held at the Bethel AME Church for the purpose of organizing Harrison's Liberty League. Garvey himself, before his tour through the states, had held a not too successful meeting in the course of which he fell off the platform. The Liberty League meeting was a windfall, however, for he was a tremendous success. Shortly before, or perhaps shortly after, Harrison's meeting, Garvey began to hold weekly meetings of his own every Sunday at 3 p.m. in Harlem's Lafayette Hall at 131st Street and Lenox Avenue. The meetings were slated to continue until October 1917, and Garvey was still being billed as head of the UNIA-ACL of Jamaica. At one of these Sunday meetings on July 8th, less than a month after the Liberty League gathering, Garvey's address was devoted to a denunciation of the conspiracy of the East St. Louis riots. The first New York branch of the UNIA may have already been formed by this time, for the association's address was given as 235th West 131st Street. The subject of this lecture shows that Garvey had once again demonstrated the propensity, as in Costa Rica and Panama, of quickly becoming embroiled in the purely local issues of wherever he happened to be. Garvey's first UNIA branch in New York, as well as a second attempt early in 1918, was envisaged as being auxiliary to the Jamaica headquarters. Garvey himself, as president of the Jamaica division, did not hold office in them. Both these efforts to establish UNIA branches were disrupted by attempts by socialists and Republicans to turn them into political clubs. On a third attempt based on the wishes of a nucleus of 13 members, Garvey consented to become president of the New York branch, thus concretizing a decision that he had in all likelihood already contemplated, namely to cast down his bucket in the United States. With this move, New York City supplanted Kingston, Jamaica as UNIA headquarters. A schism developed in this new attempt too, but Garvey weathered the storm. And the association's meeting place had meanwhile moved from the Lafayette Hall to the Palace Casino, where it remained for most of 1918. Once Garvey had decided to remain in the United States, he moved on with renewed vigor. The UNIA was incorporated under the laws of New York City on July 2nd, 1918. On July 31st, the African Communities League was incorporated as a business corporation. A month or two later, the Negro World appeared, destined to become the most widely circulated of race papers and the bane of European colonialists. Garvey initially edited. The earliest issues were distributed free by being pushed under people's doors in the early hours. During the year, Garvey embarked on his first fundraising tour outside of New York after moving the UNIA headquarters. His first stop was Detroit, where he was hit in the head by a stone thrown by a heckler. On his return to New York, his secretary, Amy Ashwood, who had accompanied him, was summoned to the district attorney's office a total, she wrote later, of 17 times. The authorities, it seems, suspected Garvey of raising funds for a non-existent Back to Africa enterprise. On November 11th, 1918, the New York Times reported a meeting of 5,000 persons presided over by Garvey at the Palace Casino. The meeting celebrated the end of World War I by calling on the Allied powers to hand over the ex-German colonies in Africa to Black rule. Several persons, among them socialists, A. Philip Randolph and Ida Wells Barnett, were nominated at the meeting to lobby on behalf of the UNIA at the upcoming Paris Peace Conference. The UNIA eventually dispatched a Haitian as High Commissioner to lobby during the conference, since most Afro-Americans were being denied passports to France by the United States government. Shortly after the November meeting, Ms. Wells Barnett addressed a UNIA gathering in New York. On this occasion, however, she annoyed Garvey by advising against the idea of a return to Africa and the establishment of what was subsequently to become the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. Like most people who saw Garvey in action, she later testified to the remarkable sway which he exercised over his audience. By 1919, Garvey was already firmly established as one of Harlem's most important radical figures. And it was during this year that his fame spread over the globe. Before the year had ended, he would be regularly discussed in the press and in governmental circles in Europe, Africa, the West Indies, and elsewhere. In March 1919, at another large meeting at the Palace Casino, Garvey claimed that W.E.B. Du Bois had humbugged the activities of his High Commissioner of France. The desire for an Afro-American lobby at the Paris Peace Conference was also responsible for bringing together a group of Harlem radicals and other prominent individuals at the home of wealthy but race-conscious Madam C.J. Walker. Garvey was among those present at this meeting, out of which grew the short-lived International League of Darker Peoples. In June 1919, Garvey incorporated his Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. By this time, Garvey claimed later, the UNIA about 30 branches and over 2 million members. This figure apparently included sympathizers as well as members in any strict sense, but the spread of his ideas by this time could not be gainsaid. As early as 1918, the Negro world had been reaching places as far as Panama, and throughout 1919, Garveyites were blamed by colonial authorities for anti-white riots in Jamaica, Trinidad, and British Honduras, among other places. In October 1919, Garvey, fast approaching the peak of his career, had his closest escape from an ultimate untimely death. Several shots were fired at him by one George Tyler, 2 of which found their mark. The wounds were minor, however. Tyler died mysteriously, supposedly jumping to his death from the cell where he was awaiting a court appearance. It was widely suspected that he planned to implicate others in his assassination attempt. A little over 2 months after this attempt on his life, on Christmas Day, 1919, Garvey married Amy Ashwood during a lavish spectacle at Liberty Hall, now the UNIA's own meeting place. In 1916, she had left Jamaica for Panama, but had become reunited with Garvey in the spring of 1918 when she moved to the United States. The marriage was over by early 1920. The couple having parted company amid a welter of accusations and counter-accusations concerning infidelity, financial misdealings, and political strategies. The year 1920 witnessed the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World, organized by Garvey. At the opening session at Madison Square Garden, New York, an overflow crowd of 25,000 filled the arena and spilled out into the streets. The other sessions took place in Liberty Hall in Harlem. Delegates who came from all over the Black world adopted the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World. This declaration listed the main grievances of the race and demanded their resolution. Notice was served on European colonialists that the Black man had an inherent right to possess himself of Africa, regardless of the claims of any other race or nation. Demands were made for the capitalization of the N in Negro, for the teaching of Black history in schools, and for an end to lynching and sundry other discriminations. The red, black, and green were adopted as the colors of the race. August 31st, the last day of the month-long convention, was proclaimed an international holiday for Black people, and the universal Ethiopian anthem was adopted. During the course of the convention, Garvey was elected President General of the UNIA and Provisional President of Africa. The mayor of Monrovia, Liberia, Gabriel Johnson, was elected Supreme Potentate or ceremonial leader. Several others were elected leaders of various parts of the Black world. Also in 1920 was the birth of the UNIA's Negro Factories Corporation, which over the next 2 or 3 years managed a number of UNIA businesses, including laundries, restaurants, a doll factory, tailoring and millinery establishments, and a printing press. Some of these ventures had been in operation since 1918. For Eda Wells Barnett reported having been shown a UNIA restaurant and some unspecified smaller undertakings by Garvey in that year. By 1921, Garvey was unquestionably the leader of the largest organization of this type in the history of the race. He had succeeded as no one else had in gathering up the worldwide feelings of dismay at the loss of independence and defiance against colonialism and oppression, which characterized the new Negro spirit of the age. As of August 1st, 1921, the UNIA contained 418 chartered divisions, up from 95 a year earlier, plus 422 not yet chartered. There were in addition 19 chapters, none the previous year, making a total of 859 branches. Garvey's unparalleled success had the effect of haranguing against himself a most powerful conglomeration of hostile forces. The United States government was against him because they considered all Black radicals subversive. European governments were against him because he was a threat to the stability of their colonies. The communists were against him because he successfully kept Black workers out of their grasp. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and other integrationist organizations were against him because he argued that white segregationists were the true spokesman for white America and because he in turn advocated Black separatism. His organization also had to contend with unscrupulous opportunities who were not above sabotaging its workings for personal gain. In 1921, opposition from all these forces escalated to a remarkable extent. First, the United States Department of State almost prevented Garvey from re-entering the country after a short trip to the Caribbean area. He managed to make it back, however, barely in time for his second international convention. Then at his annual convention, the communists, spearheaded by their Black auxiliary, the African Blood Brotherhood, made an unsuccessful bid to capture his following. Meanwhile, the NAACP, through its major Black spokesman, W.E.B. Du Bois, was steadily increasing its campaign of attacks in this Oregon, the crisis, and everywhere. The Black socialists, too, had begun to criticize Garvey, and the British authorities were busy pursuing the policy they had begun in 1919 of banning the Negro world, prohibiting UNIA officials from entering their colonies, and generally doing whatever they could to thwart the spread of Garvey's influence. Finally, on January 12, 1922, Garvey was arrested for alleged mail fraud. This was a signal for redoubled effort on the part of his enemies, who presumed his guilt and called for his arrest and deportation. Despite all this, the UNIA managed to push ahead. The Daily Negro Times appeared in 1922, and a Black Man magazine was projected, but did not, in fact, appear until much later. Garvey's second marriage took place during this year to his private secretary, Amy Jacques. In 1923, he was convicted on the mail fraud charges in connection with the Black Star Line. Yet Garvey was now claiming a membership of 6,900,000 branches. 500 of the branches and a little less than half of the membership were said to be in the United States. Garvey's last full year as a free man in the United States was 1924. During this year, the remarkable faith which his followers placed in him was again demonstrated when they subscribed enough to launch a new steamship line, the Black Cross Navigation and Trading Company. The year 1924 also saw the blocking of Garvey's intention to set up a base in Liberia. During this year, too, the UNIA launched its Negro Political Union designed to bring its voting strength to bear on American and other elections by endorsing candidates based on their record of dealings with the race, irrepresentative of party affiliations. In February 1925, Garvey's appeal was turned down and he entered the federal penitentiary of Atlanta. What his enemies hoped to obtain through his imprisonment did come to pass. Schisms appeared in the American movement, resulting by 1926 in a splinter in the New York branch, the largest of all, estimated at 35,000 members at one time. These strains occasioned by Garvey's departure were, however, still relatively minor. For Garvey, even from jail, managed to maintain some control, appointing and dismissing officers and conferring with his aides. At an extraordinary conference in Detroit in 1926, the Secretary General G. Amoni Carter reported 814 domestic branches, 215 foreign, and 91 new ones, whether foreign or domestic not specified, for a grand total of 1,120. There were 25 pending applications for charters. The discovery in 1970 of UNIA records, including membership files, provides a unique opportunity to verify these figures. According to the data in these records, mostly compiled from about 1925 through 1928, there were 725 UNIA branches in the United States, possibly 723, see the appendix, and 271 outside of the United States, possibly 273, marking a grand total of 996. The data, excluding 11 branches not cataloged according to the location, is summarized in tables 1 and 2. Several interesting and possibly surprising facts emerge from this new information. First of all, if the number of branches in a given area can be taken to indicate the extent of UNIA penetration, then the southern United States was the most thoroughly UNIA organized area in the world. Louisiana was far and away the most thoroughly Garveyite state with a total of 74 branches. The top 3 states in the United States were in the South, and only 3 of the top 13 were in the North. So these findings may be tempered somewhat, but only somewhat by the fact that some of the largest single branches were probably in such northern cities as New York and Chicago. And all the UNIA was represented in 38 of the United States. It was not only the organization of newly urbanized Afro-Americans, it was also the organization of the great mass of Black peasants all over the South, Southwest, and elsewhere. Outside the United States, Cuba led with 52 branches, more than any single United States except Louisiana. The greater Caribbean area, including Central America and Northern South America, was undoubtedly the biggest Garveyite stronghold outside of the United States. South Africa was the most thoroughly organized of the African countries. No area of significant Black population in the world was without a UNIA branch. This included Canada, Europe, and Australia. The data suggests that the Detroit report of 1926 was accurate. The slight discrepancy in figures is probably due to no greater cause than the loss of some membership cards during the decades preceding their rediscovery. For there were branches in such places as Dahomey, the Belgian Congo, and areas in Trinidad which do not appear among the records. An important conclusion to be drawn from the figures in this chapter is that the UNIA continued to expand after Garvey's 1925 incarceration. Some branches were undoubtedly disbanding even as new ones were being added, but the evidence as to how many is inconclusive. Certainly, by 1926, some branches were not sending up-to-date information to headquarters, but this had always been a problem and did not necessarily indicate lack of activity in those branches. Meanwhile, the clamor of Garvey's release mounted. At one demonstration in Harlem, an estimated 150,000 people marched and jammed the sidewalks. The government, bewildered by the depth of feeling shown for someone they liked to characterize as a crook, and perhaps viewing with apprehension the upcoming election year, decided to commute his sentence, but with deportation. 5,000 loyal followers were on hand at New Orleans to listen to Garvey's farewell address from the deck of the vessel taking him to the Caribbean. They stood in the rain and sang the UNIA hymn, "God Bless Our President," as his ship pulled away, bearing their leader from the scene of his greatest triumphs, never to set foot in the United States again.
You want somebody else to read?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when the ship stopped in Panama, Garvey was greeted by a delegation from the local UNIA, and in Jamaica, where he arrived on December 10th, 1927, he was given a hero's welcome as some of the largest crowd in the island's history turned out to greet him. None dismayed by his deportation, Garvey set about making the most of his adversity. In 1928, he visited England, presented a renewed petition to the League of Nations, and briefly visited Canada. In August 1929, Garvey held the 6th International Convention in Jamaica,
it was as spectacular as the earlier ones in Harlem. A split occurred at the convention, resulting in the formation of a separate UNIA headquartered in the United States. Garvey remained head of his faction, now calling itself the UNIA and ACL, August 1929, of the world. The American schematics did not carry the whole of America. The American schematics did not carry the whole American field with them. They failed, for example, to win control of the Negro world, which continued to carry Garvey's pronouncements. Units loyal to Garvey often changed their names to Garvey clubs, Ethiopian clubs, and the like, and anonymously and animosity between the two groups in the United States occasionally led to violence. In 1929, the year 1929 marked Garvey's most direct incursion into Jamaican electoral politics. Between the convention and the end of the year, he formed the People's Political Party, began campaigning for a seat in the Legislative Council, was jailed for 3 months for contempt by British judge when he promised to reform the bench if elected, and was elected to the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation Council while in jail. Upon his release, the corporation promptly declared his seat vacant, but he was returned unstopped early in 1930. Meanwhile, the British judge convicted him again, this time for supposedly libeling British colonialism in an editorial in his Blackman newspaper. Garvey's bid for the Legislative Council was defeated in Jamaica in January 1930, largely because the majority of the Black masses still had no vote under British colonialism. His PPP nonetheless successfully placed some candidates in both the KSAC and the Legislative Council. Garvey himself continued to serve on the KSAC Council for the next few years. On one occasion, 1931, being re-elected while out of the country. During this period, Garvey occasionally acted as a de facto trade union leader, taking up the causes of unorganized workers. In 1931, Garvey made yet another trip to England and the League of Nations. Back in Jamaica, he continued to hold political meetings, formed an amusement company, and dabbled in real estate. A 7th International Convention was held in Jamaica in 1934, followed some months later by a shift of his base of operation to England. In England, Garvey contacted African students, arranged the crowds at Hyde Park, Speaker's Corner, and managed to keep together those divisions of the UNIA that had survived the Depression, the schisms following his deportation from the United States, and the inroads into his East-Wild followers, especially in the United States, made by Father Divine Muslim, the Peace Movement of Ethiopia, the Communist, and diverse other groups. His organization in the United States remained viable, and in 1936, 1937, and 1938, Garvey visited Canada to meet with his North American followers, who would, on those occasions, cross the border in large numbers and would, among other things, attend Garvey's School of African Philosophy while providing while providing crash courses for the UNIA organizations. After his 1937 visit to Canada, he toured the West Indies, speaking to enthusiastic audience in St. Kitts, Nevis, Antigua, Montserrat, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad, and British Guyana. During his 1938 visit to Canada, he held his 8th International Convention in Toronto on August 1st to 17th. Despite his deportation and despite the increased fragmentation of his membership, his ideas continued to hold sway among the Black masses in America with remarkable tenacity. For one thing, the fragmentation did not always mean a difference in ideology between the various splinter groups. Many of them, such as the Peace Movement of Ethiopia and the Moorish American, continue to regard Garvey as something of a patron saint, even after they broke with the UNIA. Garvey died in London in June 1940, active to the end in his efforts to emancipate a race.
Thank you, Sister Diane. Thank you, Brother Najee. That completes our
Thank you, Brother John.
yes. That completes chapter 1 titled Introduction. But as we said, it basically is a recap of the life of Marcus Garvey from 1887 to his transition in 1940. I'll open the floor at this time. Is there any questions or comments from anyone?
We see that it was tumultuous. He faced a lot of challenges and persevered in spite of them. And when they stopped him in one spot, he went to another spot. He never took his eye off the goal and the prize, even though not everything came to fruition. It just makes you wonder how far things would have gone had he not been deported and had there not been so many attempts to sabotage, not just from outsiders, but also from kinfolks. So as we saw, that not all kinfolks or whatever they say. So, but he was on a mission, a focused mission, and he was serious about it, and he persevered in spite of the attempts to thwart, to destroy, to sabotage. That's my little opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
I got. Oh, sorry.
I'm just briefly, but that is something to consider. Where the UNIA would be if you know there were a few less obstacles for Mr. Garvey and the UNIA. Brother Najee, I'll give the mic to you in just a second. One thing that to pull away was on page 13. We study what Tony Martin describes as what we say the 5 forces that worked against Garvey when we talk about the obstacles. But this paragraph here summarizes that perfectly. So the first one that Garvey fought against the United States government was against him. European governments were against him. The communists were against him. That's 3. The NAACP and integrationist organizations were against him. That's 4. And number 5, his organization also had to contend with unscrupulous opportunists who were not above sabotaging his workings for personal gain. So the 5th is brothers and sisters look just like you and I that sabotage the work of Mr. Garvey and the UNIA. Brother Najee?
Yes, I just had a quick question. I know it had mentioned about the Negro Declaration. that was written? Is there any way that it has like that written form to look at?
Yes.
And what the stipulations were and like specifics?
Give me 1 second. And what brother Najee is speaking about, Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, ratified August 13th, 1920, during First International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World. So History Matters, I think, is where I get it from. I'm gonna drop this in the chat, and I'll pull it up as well. But this is also a document that we look at on a regular basis, an annual basis. Is Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World. I don't know where it is on our schedule or when we will touch on it, probably in August. Is usually when we go over that. But this is one of these pivotal documents of the UNIA, a historical document, and one that we have to make sure we remember and continue to teach. So I pull the one I provide it comes from the site History Matters. It's got a brief kind of introduction, I would say. I'm not sure as to the source of this, but it talks about the background of the time and why the document was created. Again, I can't verify the source of that, but I can say that everything from preamble on is accurate. So this document consists of 12 complaints. So Scott, we complain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 complaints, and then 54 declarations. Go all the way down to 54. Source of the document, UNIA Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, New York, August 13th, 1920, reprinted, and Robert Hill, Marcus Garvey, UNIA Papers, so it's reprinted in volume 2.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know there was a actual document for our own Declaration of Rights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very important to know. I'll just read the background. Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, the principles of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. After fighting World War I, ostensibly to defend democracy and the right of self-determination, thousands of African American soldiers returned home to face intensified discrimination, segregation, and racial violence. Drawing on this frustration, Marcus Garvey attracted thousands of disillusioned Black working class and lower middle class followers to his Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. The UNIA, committed to notions of racial purity and separatism, insisted that salvation for African Americans meant building an autonomous Black-led nation in Africa. Black Star Line, an all-Black shipping company chartered by the UNIA, was the movement's boldest and most important project, and many African Americans bought shares of the stock in the company. 1920 Black Star Line business meeting in Harlem's Liberty Hall brought together 25,000 UNIA delegates from around the world and produced an important statement of principles, declarations of rights of the Negro peoples of the world. So let me see something. Yeah. So one of them, as we talked about before, Declaration 11 stated we deprecate the use of the term nigger as applied to Negroes and demand that the word Negro be written with a capital N. So this was the first time we made that statement, that declaration as a people to be for how we were being considered as a race to be respected through capitalization. What was the other thing that I was going to look at? Declaration 39 is also important. You should know. Declaration 39 states that the colors red, black, and green be the colors of the Negro race. So that is an official declaration. It's not just something that we think looks nice and looks good and, you know, is a good combination, but this is an official declaration that our ancestors made, documented, you know, on the world stage. But, you know, if we have a history, it's not just a random thing that we do. And where's the 31st? 53, we proclaim the 31st day of August of each year to be an international holiday to be observed by all Negroes. So important document. We'll look at it in depth, I want to say in August, but we all should know about it as Africans. And especially as members of the UNIA and officers, we should know about Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World. Any other questions on either the declaration or our reading for tonight? Stop sharing. Sister Diane, is there anything that you felt is important for us to takeaways? And you can ask like from a question standpoint from the questions that we had. These are better.
Well, as you read the part, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
As you read the part that talks about how, you know, we fought for the Africans fought in World War I and such. I recall something that Garvey said in chapter 3, in the nationhood chapter, and it was a quote. He was saying about we'll start taking nationhood seriously when we consider the fact that, you know, lynching, they would actually lynch someone in a uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So when you really think about that, if you look open to chapter 3, it's right like at the beginning of the top of the chapter, that Black people will start taking the word nationhood seriously when they consider that. But when you consider that, it's almost impossible to fathom. You know, it's bad enough to even consider or contemplate a lynching. But then when you think that someone wearing a uniform, someone who fought for the country, somebody would have the audacity to lynch someone of that. To me, it's just mind-boggling, the disrespect. But outside of that, though, I think as we move forward, you know, to bigger and better days, we have to just resonate on all the businesses and programs that Garvey put in place to help to emancipate the race economically. And I think we always have to keep that in the forefront. We always have to say, okay, how are we changing? How are we, what problems are we solving? So we have to be mindful that we have to solve problems. And by solving the problems, you know, whatever ideas we come up with, it always has to come back to the economics side. And that's why we saw Garvey just kind of, he went on a rampage almost. I mean, I don't know where he got all the ideas, but he seemed to have like there was just endless ideas for business. He just had, it's almost like he would just sit there and dream about business, and it was just remarkable. And I think that if we do half of what he did, you know, and if we come together and put our thinking caps on, we'll just be so much further ahead. And it's like, not like we have a choice, but those are the things I kind of think about.
I understand. Yep. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. I did pull up the questions that we had. We're not going to go through all of them, but just to give everyone a glimpse into what we do on Tuesdays. the depth of study that we do on Tuesdays. Sister Diane is our education coordinator. She's come up with some questions for each of the chapters that we've gone over, and I think we've read maybe up to chapter 5 or 6 thus far. But these are the questions, or some of the questions that we discussed for chapter 1. So the first question was, according to Tony Martin, what simple premise is the book Race First based on? And the answer to that question, Race First is based on a premise that no one could have organized and built up the largest Black movement in Afro-American history in the face of continuous onslaughts from the communists on the left, Black reactionaries on all sides, the most powerful governments in the world. Added in history, Garvey was not a coward. And he speaks on cowardice in one of the opening quotes. But the accomplishments of Garvey and the UNIA were not accidental. They were intentional, and we should acknowledge those accomplishments. What is Tony Martin attempting to do with Race First study? Very important question. Answer: the study attempts to treat Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association with the seriousness and respect which they deserve. As Garveyites, as we've said, we have this as part of our library. All Garveyites should have this text as part of their library, but this was our ancestors, Dr. Tony Martin, their attempt, as well as Charles L. James and Thomas W. Harvey, all contributed to documenting that history. They are no longer here. We are here to carry on the work, and through the work that they put in, we are able to benefit from the work that they've done. Sister Zafia, you raise your hand. Dr. Zafia.
Yeah. One love, everyone. Dr. Zafia Bay. Yeah, I've recently read the intro to Race First personally, and I'm not sure if this was mentioned, but I just know because my first introduction to a biography on Marcus Garvey was by someone who was more of the establishment. It was called Negro with a Hat. And the whole documentary was made on it and everything. And it was so unbelievable. Like, I was struck by how Tony Martin, with that first question, he was almost speaking to scholarship like that. Like, it's not believable to say that Garvey was an amateur, because they basically were hinting that by the time Garvey, having traveled throughout Central America, throughout England, studied newspaper work, oratory, all that he had done, and just his nature. I'm into astrology as a Leo. It was unbelievable that they would say when he got to Harlem that he fell off of a stage, and it was because he had stage fright, and so he turned to imitating some European evangelical pastor. So I was just like, that's not even believable. Like, what are y'all doing to Marcus Garvey, you know? So I was thankful that Tony Martin wrote this to kind of set it straight and just give some clarity and perspective to the matter. So that's what I found refreshing about the intro. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Zafia. I'm familiar with the text that you mentioned, Negro with a Hat. I haven't gotten around to reading that myself yet. But I thought that was a book that our national body did speak highly of. I thought, but I'm not exactly sure. And I do know that, I haven't read it myself. So
it's better than nothing, but it's just certain points that are kind of like less than believable. So it's just good to have additional perspective.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know when Negro with the Hat was published. I got to look into that. But I know that Dr. Tony Martin did a lot of his writing in the same time as Robert Hill. Race First, as well as Course of African Philosophy, was the UNIA's attempt to basically tell our own story. We always hear about, the story of the lion is told by the hunter, but you never hear the story from the lion themselves. Dr. Tony Martin was approved, was appointed the official historian of the UNIA by our leadership to give the legitimate approved story of the UNIA and Marcus Garvey. So that's the information that I know. All right, but Dr. Tony Martin was attempting to treat Marcus Garvey in the Universal Negro Improvement Association with the seriousness and respect which they deserve. That is what Race First is doing. Number 3, Garvey prevailed against disparate forces with a common desire to crush him and expatriate his movement. What event slowly began to loosen Garvey's organizational grip on the Black masses in North America and to a varying degree elsewhere? Answer to that question would be his deportation from the United States, which took place, as we've learned, December 1927. We look up the definition of expatriate. Extirpate. I guess I read that wrong somewhere else. Yeah, and extirpate his movement. Definition of extirpate is to root out and destroy completely. So there were attempts to extirpate the UNIA. So basically make it so that we in 2024, we have no knowledge of the UNIA, no knowledge of the accomplishments of Marcus Garvey, no knowledge of the significance of the red, black, and green flag, the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World. All of that information was supposed to be in their minds or intentions lost to history. Chapter 1, Introduction in terms of years. What time period of Garvey's life does the book Race First by Dr. Tony Martin cover? And the answer is 1887 to 1940, from Mr. Garvey's birth to his death, so his entire life. According to Marcus Garvey, quote, life is not worth its salt except you can live it for some purpose. What does Garvey say is the noblest purpose for which to live? And again, Course of African Philosophy also touches on this. Noblest purpose, emancipation of the race, emancipation of posterity. So living for those that come after us. And what is the definition of posterity? All future generations of a people. So that's what it means, according to Mr. Garvey, to live for something. What does Garvey say about a coward? Garvey says a real man dies but once, a coward dies 1,000 times before his real death. How does Garvey say that we should use adversity, and what should we do when there are opportunities or lack thereof? Let us therefore use adversities as others have done. Take advantage of every opportunity. Where there is none, make it for yourself. When and where was Marcus Mosiah Garvey born? He was born St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica, August 17th, 1887. He died June 10th, 1940, London, England. Garvey's father, Stonesman, who also engaged in small-scale peasant farming and is a descendant of the Moors. Who are the Moors of Jamaica? Moors are ex-African slaves who successfully defied the slave regime. Ex-Africans, yeah. Yeah, they said Jamaican maroon, so it implied Jamaica. Garvey became an apprentice to a local printer, left school at the age of 14, landed an excellent position as a manager of a large printing establishment by the time he was 18, making him the youngest foreman printer in Kingston at the time. Some of the things that may have prepared Garvey for this during his early years are a couple of things that were identified: his father's library, which helped him develop an early taste for reading, adequate elementary education, private tutor, Sunday school, as leadership ability. What actions on the part of Garvey cost him his job as a foreman printer, and where did he obtain new employment after he lost his job? Mr. Garvey participated in a strike, and after he lost that job, he found work at the government printery. And then we're not going to go through the timeline, but one important thing for the timeline, I guess, would be 1920. If we don't remember anything else, do you have 1920? Yeah, it's the last page. I did see it 1916. All right, we don't go in depth on 1920. Last one or last two. Garvey planned to embark on a fundraising lecture tour in the United States to raise funds for an industrial institute to establish in Jamaica. What postponed Garvey's fundraising lecture tour for 4 months? The death of Booker T. Washington, who had received assurance of support. So he was coming to the United States he was coming to the United States to sit with Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was a hero of his, someone he looked up to. So he was coming to meet with him to duplicate the Tuskegee Institute in Jamaica. But unfortunately, Booker T. Washington died in 1915, late 1915. Mr. Garvey did not make it to the United States until March of 1916. Garvey's arrival in New York on March 23rd, 1916 for a 5-month lecture tour, his conviction about being called to emancipate the race was stronger than ever. What did Garvey tell Robert Roger Moulton, Booker T. Washington's successor at Tuskegee, about his mission? Garvey told Moulton that he was talking with him as a man with a mission from the high God. So Mr. Garvey felt he had a purpose from God. He had a mission from God at this time. And this is not the first time Garvey expresses this sentiment. Even as he founded the UNIA, you'll see, the famous quote of, where's the black man's king and queen? Where's his army, his navy, his men and women of high affairs? He couldn't find him, and he declared that he would make them. Garvey took that responsibility to create the things that he felt we as a race needed. If there aren't any other, are there any other questions on tonight's topic before we move to member share? And I may need I guess I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. All right. If there aren't.
Well, I'd like to say something to Sister Doreen, World 7. I learned a lot today. And even I stopped and looked up about the man in the Negro with a hat, the book. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to share it. Oh, I think so. Oh, you already did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I learned so much because I didn't know that it was that many. And I was with the President LeVon Lemons yesterday. Now he said the word branch, and then I said division. But I'm hearing division. Branch all day. Since I've been on the program. So I learned that, and all the various places that he went, he never gave up. So we can't give up.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
But thank you. I'm glad I tuned in.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Everything going okay in Detroit?
Yes, we're getting for our mass meeting. There's a few 407s on the line. I've seen a couple of them. Because I sent it out as soon as I got on, then I went on and started sharing it with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So I did see the link for Negro with a Hat. I guess I'm sharing already. Book was published 2010. So this is after Colin Grant is the author, but this would be after Tony Martin, after Robert Hill. But again, I don't have enough information to speak on it. But
when did Tony Martin publish his book?
That's a good question.
I found a New York Times review of Colin Grant's earlier edition and dated to 2008. So the 2010 might be a later edition.
Okay. Tony Martin, race first. Race first
And also,
published
sorry.
1976.
Okay, point taken. They were already critiquing him in the 70s, so I guess Tony Martin could have been referred to by Colin Grant, but I guess Colin Grant didn't choose to refer to him in that regard. So he had his own agenda or focus.
Yeah, that's what I said. I want to see what Colin Grant used, because his text would have come, obviously, as we see, after Tony Martin, and that would be after Robert Hill published Marcus Garvey UNIA papers as well. So I would expect those documents to be sourced in a later biography.
Hopefully.
I'm looking at it. It says Colin Grant, Negro with a Hat, The Rise and Fall of Marcus Garvey. And they have it on, I guess it's, the hardcover is like $33.85 to $110. But they do have paperback 1922, and it says in all formats.
Yeah, I saw that I saw that when I looked at 1922 is not bad. Okay. Well, it looks like we are preparing to move to member share. Let me stop sharing here. I got to pull up. I'll have some stuff in the backs. Dr. Zafia, is that a new hand? Dr. Zafia?
Yeah, one love. No, I forgot, I just didn't lower my hand, but I can share update. I have been working on the ACL curriculum, African Communities League curriculum, in honor of Brother Garvey's all hail United States of Africa legacy with Nkrumah, and how he drew upon the old Mali empires to rally his fellow leaders. I'm just trying to weave together that story from modern times, and then it'd be like, a grandfather telling his child about modern times and how these relatively recent leaders were inspired by Marcus Garvey's poem in part. But then the next question logically that a child would ask is, well, what was the Ghana Empire, Mali Empire, Songhai Empire? And then that would be the other part of the story, two parts. So there's two segments to the curriculum, and I'm still steadily learning and plugging through for myself, but just connecting the dots. So thank you for the support, and I'll keep coming back, and one love. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Zafia. Did I hear you say, I heard the word curriculum?
Yes, a history curriculum. I'm not a history educator per se, but I feel enough. I have been colleagues with people in the field of history education, and feel enough that I have enough resources to try to put a starting curriculum together for history. I'm a science educator typically.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm trying to put together a history curriculum for like a scouting, some kind of like something parents could do on weekends, get to know other parents who are like-minded, like kind of like merit scouts, but they would be learning different themes along these lines for our people. So my doctorate is in education curriculum development, so I'm trying to be of use. As I was reading the African philosophy book intro said that there was a component about starting academies and schools and stuff. So I was like, oh, well, the African Communities League school, something like that.
Yes.
So that's what I've been working on.
Yes, beautiful. Please keep us posted. And you are in Baltimore with Brother Everett.
Yeah, I've told Brother Everett. I update him about it a lot. Our meetings, I update there about it, and they're very supportive too. So
beautiful. Yeah, just keep us updated. We are I know I'm very excited about anything in regards to education, training, development. I believe, and as Garveyites, part of our job is to create these programs. So what you're speaking of, we have to, the way we see it is we have to look at the issues, the concerns that we have as a community, and bring solutions. And what we've found is that our solutions aren't limited to our own jurisdiction. So I think the phrase is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But we found that, things that are good in Chicago are good in Baltimore, are good in DC, are good in Philadelphia, are good in Atlanta, are good in Detroit. So, I look forward to us continuing to develop these programs and share these programs for the benefit of all divisions.
Wonderful. Great. Definitely.
Okay.
All right. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Dr. Zafia. That looks, yeah, we're full into member share. Sisters first. We did kind of skip over our officers, and I know our officers are not upset about that, but I want to take it back to our officers and our sisters first. So, Second Lady Vice President, Sister Diane, is there anything that you would like to share with the membership? And doing a great job with our Race First study group. But Sister Diane, anything you want to share?
Yes, greetings and great to have everyone on the call today. Awesome. I just want to say that I can't imagine a book more comprehensively written than what Tony Martin is doing with this book. I mean, it's just he didn't miss anything. He didn't miss a beat. It's just so thorough, and then all the quotes from Garvey, it was just amazingly done. So I would like to encourage those of you on the call today who are not a part of the course. This was an amazing sample of the flow of how the course is progressing. And we're still early enough because when we get about a good third of the way or more, we'll be doing reviews all the way throughout. So you can pick right up, So I would like to encourage those who like today's sample to just join us on Tuesdays, be a part of it. It's great history, and you kind of just capture the moment as it was unfolding and see how you can apply all of it to today. And it just comes together nicely. So would like to encourage some more of you on the call to join us on Tuesday.
Yes.
As Brother John says, we're about chapter 6. So, and we're reviewing, so it's not like you'll feel like you're missing it.
Yeah. I would recommend everyone attend, no matter if you've attended one session or not. Even if you're just jumping in right now at the middle, I would still recommend to join. You may not be able to, we may have already gone over the first few chapters, but I would still recommend to jump in now and take that ride with us as we go through these next few chapters. Hopefully this will be an annual program as we, and hopefully, 421 is not the only division that'll be doing a program centered around race first. So just because you're not able to get the full comprehensive at this time, take what you can get and take that with you to the next program, and you'll be much better along. I guarantee it. I definitely recommend everyone join. That's Tuesday, 8 p.m. Same Zoom that you're on right now. Thank you, Sister Diane. Anything else that you wanted to share?
Just looking forward to Garvey Day and just great call today.
Thank you, Sister Diane. Now, I have some updates on Garvey Day this week. I did reach out to African Djeli this week past. They said that there was a commitment that they needed to clarify. They've got basically some lease scheduling that they need to clean up. So I got to check with them tomorrow, and they'll be able to give me an update. But still working on Garvey Day location. In addition to Garvey Day, well, I'll have a couple announcements when it's my turn. Second sister is our second lady vice president, Sister Cecily. Sister Cecily, anything that you want to share with the family, with our officers, with our members?
Hey fam, I just want to say thank you for the lesson. It was great. I learned a lot. There's always something new to learn about Garvey, and I appreciate that. Race first.
Race first. And Sister Cecily has been co-hosting our Monday spiritual session. We read a chapter of the Old Testament, chapter of New Testament, and a little bit of the Quran as well. But so Cecily, anything that you wanted to share on spiritual study? Or I did want to get with you on you mentioned the sewing class. Have you started that? Has that begun already?
Well, it has begun. It's at the Village Skate Park on Sundays.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's only like $5. I enjoy it.
What time?
3.
If you could,
3.
is there any like a flyer or the text or anything that they have to promote that?
Yes, I can share it. I can just Google it really quick. And in regards to Monday, I'm really enjoying it. I wish we could get more participation. Hopefully that'll come.
Yeah.
But it's a good little enhancement to our weeks.
Yes. Many are called, few are chosen. It's voluntary. But I appreciate it as well. I look forward to it. So this is something that it is a program that we will continue. So you shared that. Here's the book.
What time is it on Mondays?
8 p.m., 8 to 9. It's a 1-hour session.
Oh, okay. I'd be interested. I don't know how to get involved, but
How did you get this invitation, Sister Zafia? Did you get an email for this?
Ross Marvin just gave it to me months ago, and I just kept it in my files. I don't get an email because I'm not a member of your division.
Okay, well, could you do me a favor? Put your if you want, put your email in the chat. I will include you in those invitations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Cecily. Thank you, Sister Diane. Great job providing programs for the community. And again, these are, race first. These are directly from the teachings of Mr. Garvey and the UNIA. Race first. And as we learn in Course of African Philosophy, Mr. Garvey encouraged us to read a chapter of the Bible every day, Old and New Testament. I forgot exactly what he said. I forgot the last part, but for sympathy at the very least, we are supposed to know history and master history, but we may be able to use scripture for sympathy in regards to recruiting. All right. Do we have any other sister officers on the line before I go to our brothers? Any other sisters before I go to brothers? All right. First brother is our first vice president, Brother Macias. Greetings, Brother Macias. Is Brother Macias still here? All right, Brother Macias dropped off. Second vice president, Brother Malik. Greetings, Brother Malik.
What's good, family?
Anything you want to share with?
Yeah, we just got Family Day coming up this Saturday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There you go.
Do you have the flyer for that, Brother John?
Of course I do. Give me 1 second. I'm saving Dr. Zafia's contact.
All right. And I got the rice for that. Do we need to take anything else? Because I know Najee said he had the eggs. I got the rice.
I will confirm. It was like a weirder setup, but I'll confirm that with Brother Gerald. Y'all good. Let me see. Documents, downloads. And thank you, Brother Malik, and Brother Najee. Very important. Black Family Day, as Brother Malik said. Unfortunately, the timing is not the best. It's on July 20th. So we do have another event on July 20th. That is our founding day. So that we'll have some Brother Malik and Brother Najee will be leading our community charitable event on that day. Myself, as well as some of our sisters, will be on a Zoom call with our Chicago division commemorating the founding of UNIA. But the 20th from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, so this is not a. Are they doing a giveaway? Because this is a all day event. Like this is like the speaking thing.
Yeah, no, we got we got groceries, and they said entertainment. I think the fashion show was scrapped,
Okay.
but everything else is still a go.
Okay. So the local division, y'all should be aware, our community working together. This is put on primarily by the Nation of Islam, Brother Gerald X. We work with the Moorish Science Temple in the United Sabaeans, formerly known as the Nawapians. And I said Moorish Science Temple. And New Era Atlanta has been involved in the past. But from time to time, we like to have a Black Family Day. We just come together. It's usually a line of speakers, so one individual from each group will be speaking. Brother Malik will be speaking on behalf of the UNIA during this event. But each organization will have a representative speaker, and it's just an opportunity to break bread, a fellowship, and stay engaged, communicate as to what programs we have going on, what programs other organizations have going on. But fellowship is the main thing. So July 20th, for brothers and sisters that are here in Atlanta, in the city, please come to Akira's Cafe, 5134 Old National Highway, College Park, Black Family Day. Depending on how much time, I probably won't be there, honestly, because I'm probably gonna be drained after this.
What time is the founding call?
It's gonna be 12 to 4.
Oh, it's gonna be an overlap. Okay. Did you have flyers already? Or do I need to print some?
For the founders?
No, our literature for Black Family Day.
Oh, you mean
The pamphlets.
Oh, I got brochures. I got brochures. We always, I mean, officers and Brother Malik, you've been on top of it, but all of our officers, we should be printing brochures on a regular basis. We should, 500 to 1,000 we should have on hand. I've got a good 500 here, but I print, I try to get a couple of them on a regular basis. But yes, Brother Malik, I got brochures.
I'll grab them from you sometime this week.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you, Brother Malik. Any questions for our second vice president, Black Family Day?
That sounds like a good one to attend. What did you say conflicted with it?
Great question. Let me see here. I'm pulling up the flyer. Yeah. So July 20th is the day when we celebrate the founding of the UNIA. So Chicago and Atlanta, Division 429, 421, we're having a joint founding celebration via Zoom. I do recommend for individuals to attend if you can. We will record it for later viewing, but informational is what I expect this to be. We should all know First Vice President from Division 429, Brother Shaka Barak, student of Course of African Philosophy taught by our Right Excellent Charles L. James. He's a wealth of information. Brother Clyde, President Division 429, also a wealth of information. And y'all know, how I like to, come with UNIA papers, Course of African Philosophy, good sourced documents. So let me see. I don't know if I got the program anymore because I had kind of messed up my.
I hate we don't have a space yet because that would be a good event for us to promote Garvey Day.
Yes, it would.
Ryan didn't get their drainage issues straight.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They called me earlier, but they were talking about some other stuff. They're trying to help us, asking if we found another place yet. I don't have a program for the founding event. I typed it up, but looks like I didn't save it. Save it here. View.
I think I'm going to do both events.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I don't have that in. Okay. Let me give me 1 second. And I'm gonna send out something on the Founders Day event. But you guys, since y'all are here, you get the inside view before anybody else does. So that came from Shaka. So this is going to go out for the invitation for the Founders Day. Fellow members of the African race, and this is from Brother Shaka Barak. On Saturday, July 20th, 2024, high noon Eastern Standard Time, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League members from Atlanta, Georgia, and Chicago, Illinois, are inviting you to celebrate the 110th anniversary of the founding of the UNIA-ACL that took place July 20th, 1914 in Jamaica, Caribbean. We will look back at the early members who joined in 1914 Jamaica and call their names to thank them for the foundation laying for the UNIA to become the greatest organization of Black people from top to bottom that ever existed. Let us remember the original name, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and Conservation, Universal Negro Improvement and Conservation Association and African Communities Imperial League that Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. founded, and what it sought to accomplish for 400 million Africans at home and abroad. Join us as we reveal the names of the first members of the UNIA who gave their oaths to carry the mission of freedom to the African people scattered throughout the four corners of the world. Let us join together and thank them all who shouldered this organization and encouraged the founder, Marcus Garvey Jr., to believe in his vision, and then to back that 28-year-old up with their lives, fortune, and sacred honor. Very important to, well, not very important, but something to consider is the age of Mr. Garvey throughout his accomplishments. So in 1914, when he founded the UNIA, he was only 28 years old. In 1920, when they founded the government, Marcus Garvey had just turned 33 years old. So he's a very young man making these accomplishments. He had searched the world for the black man's king and kingdom, his president, his ambassador, his army, his navy. And when he cannot find him, when they cannot find them, he declared that he would help to make them. It is these early members of 1914 UNIA we don't talk about that helped put the UNIA on good footing, then sent an inspiration into the African world to bring these nations, armies, and navies into existence that we see on the continent of Africa today. It is because they had faith in the future generations that they also labored under the adverse circumstances, under criticism in newspapers and across the pulpits of churches in the face of hatred, laughter, doubt, envy, and malice. Yet they continued to preach the objects and aims of the UNIA and ACL. They held weekly meetings, daily meetings, and mass meetings, unafraid of consequences. We will look at how, when, and where those meetings by these men and women were held, and how Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington of Tuskegee reached out to each other. So we'll look at that correspondence between Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey. Once again, join the UNIA at high noon Eastern, July 20th, 2024, from noon to 4 p.m. It will be exactly 110 years after these first men and women with pride and love in their heart that our Lord had imbued them with gave life to the UNIA. They are, to a few of us, our mothers and fathers. They are too few of us, our mothers and fathers. To some of us, our grandfathers and grandmothers, and to some of us, our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers that gave birth to an organization that turned into a movement. An organization with humble beginnings but grew to become the first mass movement. An organization that started in a small island called Jamaica and within less than 6 years spread its division to the four corners of the earth. Join us as we say we will forget those who chose to give us life so that we could serve our God under our own vine and fig tree. Let us on July 20th remember those who gave us our motto, one God, one aim, and one destiny, and what that meant and what it means now. Next, we will cover the period where the UNIA had been taken to the United States of America in 1916 by the founder, traveling commissioner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr. Once again, we will look at those who joined in the first activities of the UNIA in the United States. We will call the names of those who joined Marcus Garvey, built Liberty Halls, and put their names to certificates of incorporation, the Negro World newspaper, the Negro Factories Corporation, and the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation. We will also look at who and what organizations led an assassination attempt on Marcus Garvey's life the same year of the founding of the Black Star Line. We will look at why the Black Star Line was a threat to European and American shipping companies. I didn't know it was this long. Then we will cover the 1921st International Convention of the African Peoples of the World held in New York from August 1st to 31st, 1920, that Marcus Mosiah Garvey chaired. We will cover the great document the delegates created called the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World and those who signed it so that they will be remembered. We will remember the UNIA Constitution and how it is able to bring about an empire because it's the most comprehensive document of laws ever devised by mankind. We will remember how the governments of the world persecuted the elected officers of the UNIA, especially the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We will remember how this honest and godly drudged through the courtrooms, framed indicted, tried, convicted, sentenced, fined, and imprisoned for 2.5 years in Atlanta Penitentiary. We will look at his message from Atlanta and his release and deportation from the United States. We will look at the work done in Jamaica that essentially laid the foundation for Jamaica's independence, that justified years later him being made the first international hero of Jamaica. We will show how several movements stood on the shoulders of the UNIA, such as the Nation of Islam, founded by a UNIA member, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We will show how another movement founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali has called the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey the forerunner of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We will look at the Rastafarian movement that considered the Honorable Marcus Garvey the John the Baptist of their movement. We will look at his setting up the headquarters of the UNIA in London, England. We will remember that there are only 2 African nations on the continent of Africa. We will remember that there were only 2 African nations on the continent of Africa, and today there are 54 nations that owe a debt of gratitude for these men and women of the UNIA who laid the foundation for our freedom and that of our motherland, Africa. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah took the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey's philosophy to liberate Ghana, West Africa. I can read too fast. Jomo Kenyatta took the Honorable Marcus Garvey's philosophy to liberate Kenya, East Africa. Pixley Ka Isaka Seme of the African National Congress took Marcus Garvey's philosophy to South Africa. Nandi Azikiwe took Marcus Garvey's philosophy to liberate Nigeria, West Africa. We remember the Honorable Marcus Garvey's teaching of the course of African philosophy to those who would be able to serve as the future leaders of the UNIA. Oh, let me get through this. Saturday, July 20th, 2024, high noon, we'll look back 110 years ago. In order for us to look forward, we look at the life of the UNIA from birth to present. The birth of the UNIA should be celebrated by Africans around the world on every continent. On July 20th, we will be joined by many African leaders who will give a salute to the UNIA and ACL and Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So again, this is from Brother Shaka. Tons of history in the UNIA, a great historian, great source. But I'm excited about this as a student. I'm excited as to what I will be able to learn this coming Saturday. And I encourage all members, officers, and Garveyites alike, if available, to attend our anniversary of the founding of the UNIA next Saturday, July 20th.
President John, can you please forward that to me? It's my email.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
Thanks.
We'll do that right now. Any other questions before we proceed? So that takes care of Brother Malik, second vice president, and upcoming events, Black Family Day on the 20th and anniversary of the founding of the UNIA also on the 20th. With that, if that takes care of Brother Eric, not Eric, that takes us to Brother Eric, our third vice president. Greetings, Brother Eric. Brother Eric, you there?
Yes.
Greetings.
What's going on?
Not much.
I don't have much report wise to add, but something I think we missed, or that I don't know if I didn't hear it right, was some of the things that we follow up with on the YouTube. So I'm about to put that in the chat.
Thank you for that.
The race first classes. If you end up missing those, it's always good to catch them, live. If you can join the Zoom, that's great. But we follow up every couple days with videos on there of the classes. So that's the first one. That's the first Race First chapter for the page. And I don't know if any of these upcoming events you're gonna upload from there. I did hear you say that, but that's just where it happens. So that's the only thing I would add.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yep.
Thank you for that reminder, Brother Eric. And I would also, with that segue, so promote social media as well as dues. Most individuals on the call already paying dues, but if you're not locally, please pay your dues locally, as well as those not local. Make sure you're paying your dues at your local division. So Baltimore, Detroit. Make sure we are supporting our local Liberty Halls, our local headquarters, our local executive bodies of the UNIA. So for members in Georgia or Atlanta, please, support us here at Division 421. You can support via Cashapp, PayPal. Best way for members is to support through automatic payment system, cbpm.org/421 fund. So thank you, Brother Eric, for the reminder on social media. I wanted to also take that to remind our members to pay dues as well and contributions. And if you'd like to make a contribution to the UNIA-ACL parent body, you can do that directly. Cash App $UNIA-ACL, and that will go directly to the High Chancellor of the UNIA. All right. So I think that takes care of our vice presidents, and we've got our lady officers. Just got Attorney Motep and Ross Marvin. So Attorney Motep, anything that you want to share, Counsel General, or just in general?
No, I don't have anything to share. Thank you. Race first.
Race first. Thank you, Counsel General. From a Counsel General standpoint, we're in July right now. Yeah, we're in break mode. I think we're gonna do another Constitution class next month, August. But it'll probably, I don't know. Yeah, we'll probably do one next month, August, but we still have Race First going on Tuesdays. So it'll probably have to be a Saturday class like we did for Course of African Philosophy summer program. But just a heads up, we kind of covered, and again, YouTube, we went over the Constitution section of the Constitution. So the Constitution comes in, you got three sections. You got Constitution, you have bylaws, and then general laws, or general laws then bylaws. One of the two. I think it's I don't know. But we did Constitution a couple months back. And the next section I think we can do this month, which is just give me 1 second, see what it is. General laws. General laws is the second section, but general laws also starts with convention. So we got convention coming up in August. It's best for us to know what is the purpose of convention, and what are we there to do. So we'll go over that next month. Any questions for our Counsel General? Okay. And last officer would be President Ross Marvin, our treasurer. Ross Marvin, you got anything?
Yes, greetings, family. I always love when we do go through Race First. Is a foundation that every UNIA member in this time have to know what happened 100 years ago, how the movement started, and the daily struggles of our people. So I really appreciate the reading of the introduction in the meeting today. Also, to big up Second Lady Vice President and our education coordinator for leading our study groups, meetings, focusing on race first. Doing an excellent job. So I was wondering if there was a flyer shared earlier, the Family Day from July 20th for July 20th.
Yes.
Share that in the chat or send it to me or something. Want to put it in the Whirlwind newsletter.
I'll send that to you. Can I send? Yeah, I'll send both of them to you. And
Yes, send them both so we can push it and promote it for Saturday. Enjoyed the meeting. Don't have much else to share. Race first.
race first. Thank you, President Ross. And from a treasurer standpoint, with the division doing okay financially.
Okay. Okay.
You don't have to give
a numerical update.
You don't have to give the no. You don't have to give the number, but just from your position, your experience, based on
President
what
John,
you've seen.
you want a numerical update?
No, you don't have to give the number. You don't have to give the number, but just your feel as treasurer and as a president, former president. How do you feel we are doing financially as a body?
Well, I'm telling you, sir, big things happening because in dues, even though I'm not giving a number, I'm giving an estimate. There's over $1,000 in our account, and that's due to the members who are on the call and those who are not on the call who've been paying their dues. And continue, brothers and sisters, because this is how we're able to operate. We're on this Zoom now. Everybody jump on the Zoom. There's no charge to come on the Zoom, but our division have to pay $30 a month so we can have the Zoom. And we have other expenses that we have to pay. So President John, I saw you put the links for the due payment on the share screen, but if it's possible, you can put it in a chat so that any member who hasn't paid their due can click on the link and pay their dues. Brothers and sisters, that's very, very important because, say we live in a time where everything costs and even the movement costs. So we're doing real good on our dues. We can do better. Our goal is to have 500 active members in Division 421, and that will give us a budget of over $16,000 a year. So we can have our Liberty Hall here in Atlanta. So brothers and sisters, invite somebody you know to join the UNIA Division 421. Get the word out, spread the word out. And we're looking forward to this is what, 110th anniversary celebration?
Yep.
Of the founding?
Yes.
Of the UNIA. And that's such a beautiful thing, We have to remember that the government of the UNIA was established 1920. And this government was established before most of the current African governments on a continent and most Caribbean nations in the Caribbean and so on. So our government, I think first we had Haiti as the first African government in the Western world. That was in 1804. And then in 1848, Liberia was established. And before Liberia and before Haiti, Ethiopia has always been established and was never colonized by Europeans. So Ethiopia is our foundation. And after Liberia in 1848, then it was the UNIA in 1920. So the fourth African government established during our time. And then after 1920, I believe it was Egypt in 1924. So the UNIA has been a government longer than the current government. in most African countries. So forward ever, backward never. Race first.
Race first. Thank you, President Ross. Yes, a lot of work to do. We're heading in the right direction. So I think that takes care of all officers. Briefly, I'll just give everyone some insight as to my priorities, or what I see as priorities as president. One is this coming weekend. I want to make sure that we support Black Family Day. Brother Malik is doing a great job, as I said, leading that. Brother Najee, thank you for supporting that. That gives me the freedom to have to host events such as the anniversary of the founding. So, in addition to Black Family Day, the founding is a big priority for me. I have to work with Shaka to get the program together. It's going to be a 4-hour program. We'll expect some participation. I'll expect some participation from my officers, Sister Diane, Brother Malik, Brother Eric. I'll expect, Brother Malik, I know you're going to be tied up, never mind. But those that are available, officers, I may need some input just to read some things just to provide, just to provide some color to the presentation. So that's focus. Garvey Day location is still not finalized. I'll call the African Dejeli tomorrow. Hopefully we can get that finalized and start, making the payments toward that and start promoting once we have the location. So that's the 20th, Garvey Day, Constitution study in August. And then after that, September, we'll start a course of African philosophy. So those are my major priorities. And we're also trying to do something on the 31st. August 31st, I think we can celebrate International African Independence Day. So just to let everyone, the membership and the officers know what's on my mind and where I'm focused. Any questions, comments? Okay. All right. 7:40. We've gotten through all of our officers. We'll go to our members at this time. Sisters, brothers, we still allow our sisters to speak. Sister Deborah, greetings, Sister Deborah. Anything you want to share with the family? Sister Deborah. Okay, we'll come back, Sister Deborah. Dr. Zafia, you did mention, you already kind of shared, but is there anything else that you wanted to share with us?
One love. I also have recently relocated to Hagerstown, Maryland. So if anyone knows any Garveyites out there who are doing some stuff, I already made the announcement at my division meeting yesterday, and to my pleasant surprise, I was connected to someone. So I thought I would just mention it here. If you know anyone who is worth connecting with in Hagerstown, please let me know. Thanks. It's still in Maryland, so that's why I'm still in Division 106, but I'm further west. If anyone happens to know the area, peace.
No, none that I can think of, but it does remind me. I skipped over our recording secretary, Brother Art, in Woodbridge, Virginia. Brother Art, you're not close enough. That's not close to you, is it? You're not that close to Maryland.
It's not. No, I'm not that close.
Okay. Anything you wanted to share from recording secretary? Did you go to the secretary? Yeah, you went to the secretary meeting, right? We had a secretary meeting recently.
Yes.
Anything you remember of importance to share with the?
Not really. My notes are kind of messed up on that. I'm trying to go over them now. Uh, I really don't have anything. The only thing I have to share though is we need more people to step up to the Legionnaires meeting. The African Legion needs you.
Yes.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
Got you. Thank you, Brother Art. I think
Race first.
Yes. I got, Atlanta, we've been doing a good job. Brother Malik, Brother Eric, Brother Macius, Brother Art. Brother Najee has just recently started to get those meeting invites. So from an officer standpoint, I am happy with our representation. But we do have to extend out into our members as well. Legion is not just an officer responsibility, it's every member, every male member, specifically from the age of 18 to 55, is supposed to be part of our Legion. So thank you for that reminder, Brother Art. Okay, now that officially takes care of our officers and I believe our sisters. Any sisters that did not get a chance to share before we go to our brothers? All right. We'll go to our brothers. First brother, a longtime supporter out of Brooklyn, New York. UNIA member 172, Dr. Shams. Greetings, Dr. Shams. Dr.
Race
Shams.
first.
Race first, Dr. Shams.
Race first. Yes, sir. Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to get us to start working better together. I think it's a mission in progress. I also try to make us become independent, our own government, nation, and organization, entity as an independent people. And I have a lot of offers on my website for that. And if I don't have enough offers, maybe we could come up with some ideas. I hope I could still get the fifth Sunday for a presentation. And just want to leave my website, for any who's interested, could go there and check it out. That website is not helpful. USA Legislations People.bracesex.com. I put it in the chat. It's in the chat already with my email and phone number. Anybody want to call anytime. And send me an email if you would like. Again, the website is not helpful. USA Legislations People.bracesex.com. My phone number is 1-917-500-1699. 1-917-500-1699. Thank you very much, Race First.
Race first. Thank you, Dr. Shams. Thank you for adding the information to the chat. There's only one other brother we got. And Brother Malik, I saw your messages, so if you could hang on, I want to chat with you about that subscriber thing. But the other member, last member, as far as I can see, Chaplain Mitchell out of Virginia. Greetings, Chaplain Mitchell. Chaplain Mitchell, you there? Okay, we'll try to give Chaplain Mitchell a moment. Brother Malik, you there? Brother Malik? Brother Malik, you not there? You on mute? No. Oh. Let me try to call him. Let me see. People crazy. Hey, you still in the meeting? I saw your text. I was gonna talk through it really quick. But I'm trying to figure out where they would subscribe. I saw the 0 subscriber, but then when I pull the page up, we got dudes, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then it goes to our webpage. I don't even know if that's a I don't know if that's a option that we have. Okay. All right. I'm gonna copy and drop the link in the chat. Thank you. Okay. Brother Malik was just giving a heads up on our link tree. Make sure we are promoting our link tree and making sure members are aware of the opportunities to stay engaged. So, brother Eric dropped our YouTube page. Our link tree consists of all of our social media: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as a link to pay dues and a link to our CBPM webpage. So that's all I have. Chaplain Mitchell, if he is not there, and I think we will prepare to close out.
President John, if I may say this before we close.
Yes, sir.
Is Brother Eric still on the line?
Brother Eric, are you there? No, he dropped off.
Okay, if you can remind him to connect with me for the membership, Office of Membership Training.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a lot of training to do.
And if anybody else need assistance in training in their office, I'm available to assist. So please reach out.
When do you what time do you do that, Ross? What time do you have you set aside for that?
Everything is by appointment, but if it's weekdays, it's after 6 p.m. in the evening. And Saturdays, I'm flexible, and Sundays are not available.
Say that again. Saturday's flexible.
Yeah, but Saturdays flexible, and Sundays I'm not available because of meetings and whirlwind and everything else.
Okay.
On Sundays, but if it's weekday, it's after 6 p.m. in the evening.
Okay, weekdays after 6. All right, sounds good. I will definitely make sure I send him, forward that to him. Yeah.
Also, have all new officers written out their duties and turned them in?
Actually, Brother Najee, have you sent in your responsibilities, including executive body?
Oh, I have to do the executive body. I have to send that to you.
Okay, executive body, Sister Cecily. Sister Cecily, have you done executive body?
Yes, I have.
Okay. The last one will be Sister Diane. Sister Diane.
Almost there, not quite complete. I should complete it pretty quick.
Okay, so Brother Najee, executive body, and Sister Diane. Also, well, no, Lady President did send in hers, so never mind. She's off. Thank you for that reminder, Brother Malik. If there's not anything else, then I will prepare to close out with the Ethiopian anthem. All right, all right. If you would, please put your lines on mute and we'll close out with our anthem. Let me see, where's my mute?
Do you need to stop the recording?
Brother John, you on mute? You on mute? Brother John, you on mute? You on mute? Raise first.
Thank you, Dr. Shams. No, we don't have to stop the recording. This is fine. And thank you, Brother Najee. Thank you, Dr. Shams.
You back in mute. You back in mute.
Ethiopia, the land of a...
You can't hear it. You're in mute.
Ethiopia, the land of our fathers, the land where the gods love to be. As storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, our armies come rushing to thee. We must in the fight be victorious, when swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious, when led by the red, black, and green. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. Ethiopia, the tyrant's falling, who smote thee upon thy knees, and thy children are lustily calling from over the distant seas. Jehovah, the Great One, has heard us, has noted our sighs and our tears. With the spirit of love, he has stirred us to be one through the coming years. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. O Jehovah, thou God of ages, grant unto our sons that thee the wisdom thou gave to thy sages when Israel was sore in need. Thy voice from the dim has spoken. Ethiopia shall stretch forth the hand. By thee shall our fetters be broken, and heaven bless our dear fatherland. Advance, advance to victory, let Africa be free. Advance, advance to meet the foe. Advance, advance to meet the foe. With the might of the red, the black, and the green. With the might of the red, the black, and the green.
All right. Thank you, brothers and sisters. That will close out our meeting for this evening. Again, Spiritual Study Monday, Race First Study Tuesday, and Founders Celebration this coming Saturday. And that's all I have. I guess we'll close out with the motto. Let's see who wants to help me. Sister Diane, would you
Okay, everyone.
Feminine energy.
Put your black fist in the air. Repeat after me. One God.
One God.
God.
One aim.
One aim.
Aim.
One destiny.
One destiny.
Destiny.
Africa.
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 For the Africans.
For the
For the
Africans.
Africans.
Those at home.
Those at home.
At home.
And those abroad.
Those abroad.
Those abroad.
Race first.
Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Race first.
Race first.
Yes, sir. Go in peace, family.
We are Africans. We can do what we will.